in the dashboard, because if it was in there that day I had a seizure, this thing in my brain would have told that car that I was having a seizure, stop the car, call 911. I would have never flown to that intersection, and it could continue to save lives in the future. They said they were going to forward it to their design and whatever department, and they should, because I can't imagine having to live with that knowing I killed someone.
Oh, God, no. And it wasn't like, well, that's a blessing, that's a grace that you were given, not to have to have that on your conscience ever.
That's why I'm here to be the one that figure, you know, things that happen for a reason. I'm a talker. So put me on front so I can talk and tell people it wasn't that bad, and they finally passed it for kids to have this in their heads. I see pictures that belong to some of those the epilepsy like things on site, and seeing these little kids that are just biting like half their tongues off and thrashing around in their beds and cribs. It's just awful. At least I had a normal life till I was 40-something, until I had my first seizure. I woke up 4 days later in the hospital, and they told me what had happened, and then every 3 weeks to 2 months I'd have another one and wake up 4 days later, usually in the hospital, and I'd wake up and they'd tell me what I'd done this time, and my poor kid.
And you mentioned to me that this is something that you were just going about your life, doing your business, and all of a sudden you just started having it. Is that right?
And I grilled the guys, and when I was in the hospital, they had a couple of guys from Caltech who were getting their PhDs in brain studies, and were coming to do some tests on me, and I was grilling them kind of like, do you think that all the debauchery of the 80s and whatnot that, you know, indulged in had anything to do with me having all these seizures? And he was so funny. He goes, honey, if it was that, he goes, we'd all be epileptics now.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, okay, good, because I thought, did I do this to myself? Because we just don't know.
I'm going to do this just for safety.
Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about school first.
Yeah.
And how fabulous and wonderful it's been. Which it really has. I can't imagine if I didn't have anything else to do all these years while I was healing, and
Yeah, that is our first question, actually. What brought you to VACE?
originally, well, I heard about the Department of Rehab, and I hadn't gotten accepted for surgery, and I was not able to do my career as a decorative painter anymore, so I was looking to change careers and do something, and heard it was an option, so I signed up. It was kind of a waiting list, but I got a call back the next day. There was a cancellation. Did I want to come in? And I came in and was given some different options to look at and choose from as to what might fit me, and being an artist my whole life, I was thinking that the graphic design thing would be a good match, and they got me signed up really pretty quick. Before I knew it, I was over here taking classes. Before I even got in for the surgery or doing any of the other stuff, I was here taking classes, taking 2 buses a day, 3 buses a day to get here back and forth from Camarillo, and I'm starting in with all the with the Microsoft Business stuff first.
Yeah. Let's back up a little bit. Maybe that is a good place to start. So, tell me about, in order of, you say you're from Chicago.
From Iowa originally.
What? I'm sorry, Iowa.
And then went off to Chicago to art school.
And what, then you had a big successful business in Chicago?
As soon as I graduated, we started my company, Annabeth Studios, doing murals and faux finishes. We painted over 100 nightclubs, bars, restaurants, hotels, all over Chicago. Doing marbleizing, huge murals, a lot of high-end, I'm trying to think, a lot of commercial stuff, and then a lot of homes and, I'm losing the word on this one. What is it? What is it?
You can back it up.
Commercial, right? If I could do it again, commercial and
Residential.
Thank you. There's some blank spots in there. I used to call it my Swiss cheese memory, because there's
some
big
holes.
chunks gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that one again.
Yeah, so let's back it up a little
Okay.
bit. So you're originally from Iowa, went to school in, so this started like just like that. Say, I'm originally
Originally from Iowa City, Iowa. I grew up in.
I was talking over you, so
Okay, okay.
let's start in,
I was originally born in Iowa City, Iowa, where the University of Iowa is. I left there and went to Chicago to go to art school at the Art Institute. Graduated from there in 1986, and me and two friends decided to start a company. We called it Annabis Studios. We did decorative painting, all kinds of murals and faux finishes, and all kinds of high-end painting for commercial and residential places, but mostly commercial. We did over 100 nightclubs, bars, restaurants, hotels all over Chicago, until eventually I left Chicago and came to California. Moved to Newport Beach first, and then started doing painting down there, and met Kevin, and he moved up here to Camarillo, and but I had my first seizure down there in Orange County, and woke up 4 days later in the hospital, and they told me what had happened, but been completely healthy my entire life before that.
check one thing. No, you stay still. I just want to make sure. So, what, I'm going to ask you, I'm just making sure.
Should I turn and look and talk to the other cameras at all, or just stare at the one?
No, stare, just look at me the whole time.
Okay, okay,
And I am intently listening, so.
okay.
I just want to make sure that, so this, yeah, and we can break between a little bit, just to have a drink of water and, because
Yeah, and I think I'll get
it's good.
a little more
Yeah,
comfortable
right.
as things
Yeah,
get.
what we could do is, as we settle in, because
Mhm.
I've been on the other side of this too. It took me after about 10 minutes, I start to get acclimated, and it's not as, everything's looking great. I just, and it brings back some of these memories too, so that's a little, takes you back. And about what age were you roughly in Newport Beach where you had your first?
I was from, let's see, I was about 43 when I had my first seizure, I believe.
And did they become progressively worse and
Yes,
worse?
I was having them about every 3 weeks to 2 months. I'd end up in the hospital, and I would generally wake up 4 days later. That seemed my average. But as it's gone down the line, and now I ended up at Cedars, and Dr. Chung is my doctor that runs everything. He's the head of the epilepsy department. He said I was actually having so many seizures, so many little ones in between, the big guys that landed me in the hospital, that it was making everything fuzzy.
Now, you came into the program still with this condition, correct?
Yes.
And I'm remembering, I'm not looking at the question, I'm more remembering what you told me in the past, is that there was a certain part in the program that you were making these trifolds, and you decided that you had to actually advocate to the staff or to the team, the medical team, to actually even go through with the surgery for you. Even though
I wasn't hearing back from the people at Cedars. I wasn't, and in the midst of that, I saw that movie, Shawshank Redemption again, where he was wanting the library books. And when after writing and writing, he finally gets the library books, he's like, all right, I'm gonna start writing twice as many times now. And it was such an inspiration. I was like, okay, if I'm not hearing back, I'm gonna keep writing and calling. That was the squeakiest wheel ever. And I was writing and calling and emailing, and then we had the trifold brochure project, and I did my trifold on why I should get the surgery and laid out the whole, how many times I'd been in the ambulance. I think I'd had at least 16 ambulance rides, I believe, to the hospital. I think I had 19 or 20 some times I'd end up in the ER, because every now and then my friends would take me in. But I'd always instructed my friends not to take me to the ER, because I'm like, they're not gonna do anything. And told them you can't die from seizures, which is not true. I was misinformed. Yes, I had all that listed in the brochure, and all the reasons that I had to live, about my daughter, and all the things I wanted to do with my life, and printed out 10 or 12 or 15 of them, because the neurology board meets once a month to decide who's going to get what and what's going to happen. And I don't think they'd ever had anyone send in brochures as to why they should have surgery. So I think they were a little surprised at that to start with. So I think that kind of moved me up the list. And then I continued to call and write and call and write and call and write. And I think I was getting close to being there, and then the pandemic hit, which kind of X'd out a whole lot of anything moving forward. But because I was so adamant, they squeezed me in. They said in the end, they said I was the only person that got a non-life-threatening implant surgery that entire year at that whole hospital, because I think Dr. Chung really advocated for me. And it was a little odd too, because I got dropped off by the medical bus on Monday morning. They did the surgery, and they let a friend come pick me up Tuesday morning. I was barely out of the anesthesia. Kevin was working in Northern California. I had no friends or people here. So I kind of just slept for like 3 days. I'm not really a painkiller person, so then I was back on Excedrin, and I was up and out walking the dog. And going about my business 3 days later with a shaved head, but had some hats, and off I went.
So after that procedure, have you experienced the seizure?
They say it takes about 2 years for it to retrain your brain. There's 2 little wires that go off to the places that they decide the seizures were emanating from. It's actually designed by the guy that designed the modern pacemaker. That's why it's called NeuroPace. And I go in every 3 months, and at the beginning they would kind of dial it up or down to where it hits before the seizures hit, and tells your brain to knock it off and to run at a normal pace, and not have an electrical storm like the seizure is. So little by little, they stopped happening to have little tiny ones that are kind of little mini breakthrough ones that aren't real seizures, that kind of just kind of ink out. But even those, they've stopped. After 6.5 years, I got my driver's license back. So what happens is I've got this little wand that I hold over my head, because it's Bluetooth, and it uploads the information into my computer that I get from the hospital. And once a week, I plug the little Ethernet cord in, and I send the information over to the hospital. So when they finally gave me the license back, they are monitoring your brain in milliseconds, and they know that I'm not having them in my sleep, that I'm not having them that I'm unaware of. So I was totally comfortable knowing that I was getting behind the wheel again. But 6.5 years without a license, when I finally did start driving, I thought, how did I do it? How did I ride buses 3 times a day to get, 3 buses just to get here and back? And for 6.5 years, walking, schlepping my backpacks and my groceries, and not really knowing anyone here. If I'd gone home to Iowa City, it'd be one thing. I have friends and family there, but I didn't really know anyone up here, so I was kind of on my own.
So now that this gives you a new life.
Yes.
Or in other words,
It's giving me my life back.
giving it back.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And I think I refer to Dr. Chung as my savior of all things. I just love him. He's just an amazing person, and makes me want to go spread the word and tell other people, because if I could do it by myself and in the middle of a pandemic and come home the following morning almost under anesthesia, and just go rest by myself with nobody there to take care of me or with me, and 3 days later be up and out the door walking the dog. And I think I was really probably down to Excedrin after maybe day 2 or so, because it really wasn't that painful. It wasn't that bad. The test for it, when they had to drill 11 holes in my head and insert these metal tubes with wires coming out of them, that was a little rough. But it was worth it. I forgot about that part now that I have my life back. So yeah, it makes me want to give back for all they've done for me, to go spread the word to other people that they can do this too, especially the young ones. The kids that are having this, they should. It's an amazing thing that they're able to do.
Now, how would you say you're 100% back with your life?
Well, kind of, because partway through, I got another really rare what do they call it? A neuro disorder. 8 years ago now. I came home from work, and my feet started going numb, and I was not walking quite right. I remember asking my buddy Joel, the one that's my Volvo buddy that was out with me and Lexi and helping take care of us while Kevin was up north and working, running the business, and he was kind of a piece of work, and we'd stopped off at the beach, and sometimes it takes a little bit to adjust from the sand to ground, and my feet are dragging, and I said something to Joel, are your feet dragging at all? And he's like, no. I'm all like, okay, well, mine are. Something's funky going on, and the numbness is going up and up and up my legs, and it's starting to, that's my lower rib cage, and I'm starting to have trouble breathing a little bit within an hour. This is all happening. Get a little panicky. We finally take me to the ER. I spent 8 days there. They do everything from spinal taps to MRIs to everything, and finally checked me out and told me that I had conversion disorder, and I was doing it for attention, and get out and go see a neurologist. I couldn't walk at all. If you stood me up, I would just collapse to the ground like just a little pile. Finally, they got me a walker, and I could kind of stagger around on that. And I went to go see my regular neurologist that I see for the epilepsy, and he says, no, you have transverse myelitis. And I'm all, grabbing a receipt out of my purse and scrawling this on there and saying I have what, and going home and Googling it, and saying all the same things that I have, that it's, what happens is that your immune system attacks, there's 4 different versions of it, but the one I have, your immune system attacks your spinal cord one day out of the blue and leaves lesions in there so that your brain can no longer talk to the lower half of your body. And at that point, they didn't know if I would ever walk again. They said, well, no, in a year or 2. I'm just jaw dropped. I'm like, excuse me? You don't know if I'm ever going to walk again? My father was paralyzed in a motorcycle racing accident. He understood the risks of going out on a track 120 miles an hour with 20 other motorcycles, and he wrecked, and a bike rolled over his back and mangled his spine, and I understood he made that choice. I just got up and went to work and climbed a ladder and came home, and now you're telling me I may never walk again? So that was kind of rough. And I don't know if it's because I'm just such a fighter and wouldn't give up, or if I'm lucky because it didn't, maybe the lesions make it all the way through as far as, I don't know. That's why I walk a little wonky, as my mom puts it. And the other versions, one attacks your optic nerve, one presents like polio, and the other one, I can't remember exactly how it does, but there's 4 different things. I still haven't felt my feet in 8 years. It's completely numb from there up. And it bothers me too that I was at Hoag Hospital in Irvine, and the CDC says that the best thing to do for the best outcome is high doses of intravenous steroids right away, plasma transplant, a couple of other things that were never done. Just, I was doing it for attention, and that they can just get away with that. That kind of bothered me. And then I'm left staggering around. I've never been able to run again. I used to be a rather athletic person. So other than, that I've transverse myelitis, but they're getting better on it. They got approval to do the first stem cell transplants into 9 non-ambulatory people. Well, part of the problem is too, they only studied at 3 places in the U.S. Johns Hopkins, University of Utah, and University of Southern Texas, I believe. So nobody really knows about it very much.
On the timeline that we're talking about, this happened
2016.
Okay, so and then the first seizure you had, what year was that?
Now it would have been 15 years ago. So.
Okay, so this was after the seizure.
Oh yeah.
So 2010 was probably the seizure,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And then as you're going along, the actual procedure is surgery where they did the
Computer was in 2020.
that was in 2020. The
Yeah.
pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Okay. So other than I didn't know that part of your story.
Yeah.
So now, I think you sent me a whole bunch of pictures, and we could talk a little bit about. So but you're still able to climb ladders.
I still do. I'm not really supposed to. Dr. Chung was telling me at points not to be climbing ladders and doing too much. And at one point, I was painting a restaurant in Burbank, just right up the street from Cedars, and I was out in front painting the facade, and it's right on the track that I know he travels to get back home. And I'm not really supposed to be up there, and I kept thinking, oh my God, if he drives by and sees me up here, he knew I was painting a restaurant right over there, and he knew that I was next door to the old Irish place there. Yeah, I was still climbing up on scaffolding and doing things that, if I wasn't having seizures, I wasn't going to flip off of them anymore. And I would strap a little belt, like a rope around my waist and tie it on so that I wouldn't, if I did fall, I wouldn't fall far.
Yeah, so your equilibrium, everything's still pretty, it's just that not feeling your feet and,
Well, my equilibrium's way off. My balance is way off.
no, so like you wouldn't know if your feet are being achy from standing all day then?
No.
Oh, okay, so physically, does it take a lot out of you, or you still feel primarily you're good for a good window of time, and then you gotta call it?
Yeah, I get more tired and just feels like this whole chunk of the lesions are in about right there. So the whole part of the back here just kind of seizes up and just turns into like a solid block where it doesn't move. But they're in round 2 of testing. They're getting their, I thought I was going to qualify for this one, but it's still non-ambulatory people. So I imagine round 3.
So this is gonna be the stem cell
Yeah.
procedure that's gonna probably, basically it's replacing the dead cells with new cells, and then with that technology, you're hoping that it's gonna connect a lot of things in order to get the feeling back in your.
It does something to the myelin lining that goes around your nerves. I guess it demyelinates. I'm not saying that right. Anyway, it takes the myelin lining off of your nerve cells, which makes the signal not be able to travel. It's kind of like taking the insulation off the wires and things, so they're not. So they've got something going on where it's helping the myelin to regrow around your nerves that are going down right around that area where the lesions and the stuff's going on with the spine. And we just finally ordered new MRIs to be taken so we could see what happened between then and now, but it turns out that you can't put me in an MRI machine without turning this thing on my head off. So Dr. Chung said we have to do it at Cedars. So we're waiting to reschedule and have it done there, which is wonderful because now I'll get the benefit of their doctors looking at it and see what's going on.
Is there now are these two conditions both go hand in hand, or are they completely different?
Completely different. No, the chances of getting both of these different things are like the chance of like being struck by lightning 3 times or more, or I'm just super lucky.
Yeah. No, now you're after the let's see. So after seizure, the lesions, and then you got to a point where you said it took 6 years to get your license back.
And it took about a year and a half before I was up and walking again, where I could get around, where I could actually walk without a walker. I went from walker, and then I got a cane, and then and I was able to walk.
And was it the DOR, you said, the Department of Rehab?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you were able.
And Kevin went through that first, through his sisters letting him know because of his being basically deaf. And his sister, who's a teacher down in Orange County, suggested that maybe he go and try that. And he was going to go to be an x-ray technician, but there was a huge waiting list, and being a speech-language therapist was an option. And he asked him, can I still do that even though I'm hard of hearing? And the guy said, well, can you hear me? I said, yeah. I said, then you can do the job. So he did that, and when we got up here, he got a new job up here and suggested, asked if I want to move from Orange County and come up here. I never even heard of Camarillo. And then vaguely heard of some outlet that existed here.
Yeah, it's big outlet,
Yeah.
actually. It's all the people from I want to say Asia that come over.
Oh, you're right.
The family is connected with their travel. I only know the tip of the iceberg of the story, really, but yeah, basically the tour buses
Come directly from the airport to the outlet mall first. Yeah.
And it was so funny because when that first opened up, then Oxnard did the Oxnard factory outlet, which it was items that were kind of higher end but reduced price, and that didn't last long. Everybody, it was the combination of the perfect, having a lot of people go there, you know, have that be the epicenter, and then also the fact that they brought in these big names, and, you know, people got money, they're gonna go
I
and,
had some nice places there.
yeah.
All those guests, those yeah.
So
So I never even heard of it. Came up here and got a new neurologist. I went in to see him the first time. He looked like he was 17 years old. I thought, oh my God, I got Doogie Howser. I thought, oh the Lord. Turns out he's actually married with 2 children. He just looks really young. And he did his residency at Cedars under Dr. Chung, and immediately started grilling me. Well, how come you never had this test and this test and this test done? I'm like, I don't know. I just go to my doctors, and they just kept adding more and more medications that weren't doing anything. So that's how I ended up at Cedars. He sent me down for the first test where they glued 50-some electrodes into my head, and I stayed there for 5 days, and that came back inconclusive. So they said, we got to go deeper. And this one was the one they drilled 11 holes in my head and inserted hollow tubes and inserted all the wires. I had 64 wires coming out of it that went to a big block, a piece of computer that sat in bed with me at about 18 inches. It went down to that, and then from that went over to a big computer stand, and they slowly eased me off the seizure medications, hoping to have seizures and see where they were coming from. So 11 days I was there doing that, and because originally they said they were going to take a small piece of my brain out, the one that was causing the seizures. I had an instant vision of the doctor from the Simpsons cartoon with the melon ball scooper, scooping part of my brain out. My jaw dropped to the floor. I said, you're going to do what? You're going to take part of my brain out? Dr. Nazad, the one that I first saw, still teases me about that. He said, the look on your face. So I come back, and after the second test, they said, that it was coming from more than one place, and they couldn't do what they thought they were going to do of that, but what they could do is install this computer in my head that was going to stop the seizures. And I always look back and laugh and think, one would normally have some intelligent questions to ask, like how many have you done, what's the rate of success? The only question I had was, because I had the most wonderful dog, this Australian Shepherd, and she and I used to play all the time. We'd sometimes play tug of war on the floor, and every now and then our heads would crash really bad. And we'd both like stick by, look at each other like, whoa, that was a bad one. So I remember asking the surgeon, you know, I got this dog and we play tug of war. Am I gonna have to wear a helmet for the rest of my life? Am I still gonna be able to play with my dog? And it was almost a silence. Like, I don't think he'd heard such a dumb question. Like, he was just kind of like, really? He said, yeah, you'll still be able to play with the dog. You should probably be a little careful with the first couple weeks, but you'll be fine. I know you won't have to wear a helmet. I said, okay, fine, then let's do it. That's the only question I had. So they got me in within the next month or so, and that was a whole lot better than the 11-day thing, and amazing what they've done for me. So now I've crawled back to being normal. The seizures were so bad, and everything was so, that was what really turned my life upside down, that we never addressed the transverse myelitis. So now that I'm fixed from that, we're going to figure out the other one, and then I'll be kind of back to where I was, minus 15 years. But I got to come here, and that's been an amazing experience. I've got to meet so many great people here. The teachers and the staff, everybody's been absolutely amazing. They've worked so much with me with all my issues. The only hard part was the pandemic year, a little bit of the homeschooling. A couple of the classes that the Excel was a little tough for me to do at home. Being an artist, I'm not real good with the numbers, and that landed at home. That was a little tough, but everything else has been just, it's been amazing, and I've learned so much. Now we're down to the end of doing the web stuff and all the art stuff and all the Adobe stuff. It's so interesting and fun, and now starting to take it out into the world and do stuff with it. I'm redoing my own website, working on helping my mom with her website. She's an amazing artist. And I got several friends ready to hit me up and getting ready to actually go look for a real job. I've never had a real job hardly, because we started the company right out of when I graduated. And when Jeffrey came in one day talking about everybody doing resumes, and was walking around the classroom talking about, you know, well, we've all done resumes, this, that, and the other, and I had to raise my hand and say, I've never done one. We had client lists and things like that, but I never did a resume before, so that's been a a learning experience. I finally completed the first version of it. Now we're gonna have to figure out a few variations because I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do. There's a lot of options. I might want to work for a print company. I might want to work for a wallpaper company. I might want to work for a web or something company. So I'm not really sure. So I'm gonna make a couple of variations on the resume and as I start to head out and find a real job for the first time at almost 60.
Tell me a little bit about you said Jeffrey, but have you worked with Sandra?
Sandra is the placement person here. Has been wonderful. Yes, she has been helping me start to write and do the first versions of it, but now I'm getting ready to start to meet with her again to do the fine tuning of it and figure out the different variations and exactly how we're going to approach that and what I want to do. She was the one that really opened my eyes to the different opportunities that I would have to and to look at all my past experience and try to bring that all together with everything I've learned here and figure out now where I want to go with it. So that's been a huge asset because she brought up a lot of things that I didn't really think about, that combining the two, my past history of running my own company and all the things that really come with that. We had 8 employees and a manager and everything that you do actually in sales and what goes all along with watching the job sites and training your employees and making sure everyone's doing everything the same. Some of the skills that you listed that go along with that would be very beneficial in working with the company. So she's been really key in helping kind of instruct me on what some of the things the talents and things that I have that will be good assets as I move forward and how to put those down and present myself. So we're kind of at that point where I'm just getting down to the very last little bits of things I'm turning in and finishing that up and figuring out what job ads I want to respond to. What is it that I do want to do?
And I noticed you're on the stand-up for the actual class that you're. So you've been a part of ACE for quite some time.
I've been around for a little while now, yeah, and a bit of a ham. So I thought that was great that I got to be on there. That was fun.
Yeah. What was your did they ask you? What was your what did you think when they asked you to be on that?
I think they were looking around for someone to be on it, and I think that my hand was the first one that went up because I thought, yes, I've been around here that long. I should definitely be on the poster because I think I'm a good representative of what kind of people can come in through here. People that have, for various reasons, not able to do what they used to do, and with some training can reroute their trajectory of what they're planning on doing. I've learned so much here. It's amazing. When I sit down at the computer and I'm sitting with my friends, I take it for granted now because it's kind of soaked in, but my friends sit and look at what I'm doing and creating, they're like, dang, in amazement what I'm able to do and create on the computer from what I've learned. I was also a beneficiary of being here when, what was our previous instructor's name? Was Kathy. When Kathy was here. And she had a totally different style of teaching. And to get all the benefits of everything that she taught, and she was just great. She was wonderful. She had such knowledge and she was so kind and she was so sweet and so helpful. I'm not sure sometimes I would have made it through had I not had someone so dear and so kind. And then eventually she retired and we got Jim. And Jim's just a lot of fun. Jim's great energy and has been out in the field working and doing and has a lot different approach to things and has been more recently involved in the work world. So that's been a really lucky thing for me. Not very many people got to have the benefit of having both instructors, their input into what they've done. So that's been a nice thing. And Jeffrey was my counselor when I got here and is now our vice principal. He's been absolutely wonderful. He's been so supportive and just helped keep me going all the way along and make sure that the programs because I stayed a little longer due to the pandemic and 2 brain surgeries, and then I got kind of busy and painted 2 restaurants, one in Burbank and one in Joshua Tree in the midst of it, and that's part of why it took me a little longer to complete the program. But and they've been so flexible and great about that and working with me, and that it's been such an asset, and I super appreciate.
So currently, you mentioned some projects. What I know you sent me some great pictures of stuff from the studio and stuff. What would you call that medium? What is it that you have that training to make a wall look like a marble wall or granite?
That would be, well, trompe l'oeil, some people call it, or marbleizing, mural stuff, decorative painting, all that stuff. And I'm thinking about going into doing some teaching of that now, especially with a lot of the stuff that I've learned. We've been able to do the, projecting and planning everything on the computer, all the stuff I can do with the promotions and the so much of what I've learned here to take on to do that, and start teaching some more classes in some basic painting and some marbleizing and some mural painting and a variety of different topics possibly. Start to look into that as one option, because I'm kind of thinking maybe work part-time and continue following my art path part-time.
Yeah, just curious, there's one in here. You covered, I like that comment you were saying about people that come from different types of situations and redirect their paths. That was really good. You covered what you're thinking of doing after you graduate. Are you seeking right now, are you seeking further education as well, or do you think you're at a point where you said you're going to teach and then work part-time?
I think I'm totally at a point where I'm good. I think that I will, one thing that I really like about the school here, they said once you graduate, if you're here, you're always family and you can come back. So I imagine I'll come back for, as certain computer programs change and I need help on things, I might come back for some refresher things. And as I get deeper into certain maybe programs that we just touched on, or certain things that might, as I start to evolve and change, I might pop back in and get a little refreshers on things. Also wondered if maybe I need to go take that yoga room over there and have a paint class once a week.
Yeah, no, I see that as I would definitely mention that, 100%. I wouldn't even, I would push for it, and
Yeah.
I actually, just as a thought, I would actually create a pamphlet as if it was a class that
I've
you
actually
teach. Oh, you did?
I did one pamphlet just as a sample, not the one like here, but I did an art classes sample as one of my design project assignments. So we just have to go back in and alter that a little bit and change the details and fine tune it a bit. And so I've had 30 years of painting experience in the mural business in Chicago, and with that, it was so interesting because every client was totally different and their vision was different. So I was like reinventing the wheel every week. This one wanted it, to be, and a lot of it was murals and big murals. One of my favorite places we did was an indoor volleyball bar and bowling place and courts, because apparently there's quite a big professional volleyball league, and the people in Chicago were getting kind of bummed because people in California are practicing year round, and they did a lot better than Chicago. So it was, 40 feet high by enough for 4 or 5 courts of sand basketball sand volleyball. So we painted sky all the way around and palm trees and ocean, and I think it was sponsored by a couple of the beer companies. So we had some giant beer bottles in the sand. It was huge, and that place was open for years and had competitive volleyball things, a lot of Italian restaurants. So every time it was different. So because I was painting not always what I wanted to do, it was what someone else wanted to do, and then you had to meet their needs exactly. I've become good at a lot of different styles and a lot of different types of things. So I'm very adept at being able to paint, or to paint and to teach all kinds of different stuff.
Now, with all this culmination of all this experience and all these life things that you got broadsided with, has it really caused you to really get that focus to a real, do you have a very specific achievement that are you chasing, are you after, or do you think what you just said is pretty much the scope of what you want to do?
It's sort of the path. I would just think like to continue doing my own artwork and pursue the galleries and sell my own paintings and artwork and prints and versions of that. My mother's an extremely accomplished and successful artist. She sells out of 2 galleries in Iowa City still. She had her first big museum show just over a year ago or so, and at 85 or so, and she's so talented. And I see the path that she took, continuing to just get better and better with her artwork, and then start to sell at like one gallery and another, and then she sells the paintings, but then there's the reproductions, and then there's always the commissions, and she's got them hanging all over the hospitals, at the University of Iowa, hospitals and clinics, and so yes, I'd like to continue working on a lot of my own artwork ideas.
Now, I know you wanted to do a promo spot aside of this that we're going to do for here, and you wanted to do it on the Volvo commercial. I think that we're probably going to look for some short sound bites of what we can kind of cover the whole part of it, but you still want to do that, right? So
I think the Volvo, I wanted to tell Volvo, I wanted to show them the pictures of what happened with my car. I watched some of their Volvo Save, I officially belong to the Volvo Save My Life Club. You send in the photographs of your accident and the police reports, and their technicians and people, whatever, pour over it and decide whether decide that their car really saved your life or not. And they deemed that it did. In that accident, I was coming home from work and had a seizure on the way home and flew through a intersection in Orange County and completely took out 3 other people's cars. I mean, obliterated them. One car looks like part of it was sheared off. My car, one of the front headlights was all the way back to almost the steering wheel. And one of the things about the Volvo car, that the engine drops and goes under as opposed to coming back and just squishing you, which is exactly what it did. I woke up 4 days later in the hospital, like I usually did. The 24-year-old, it was an older car, the 24-year-old airbag had gone off, and all I had was a few bruises from the airbag, which I find just utterly amazing. When you look at the condition of that car and what it did, when it really kind of sets in and you look at those pictures, you think how different it could have been. And so actually, when I got done with the surgery, I contacted Volvo and told them I thought that they should take, this thing in my head is just run Bluetooth. And you could take that technology and put it into the dashboard, and it could have stopped the car that day. It could have detected a seizure, and it could have stopped the car and stopped that accident from happening at all. This NeuroPace and this RNS system, it's the future of what will be the treatments for epilepsy. For certain people with epilepsy are resistant to a lot of the drugs that they give you to stop the seizures. It's a huge group of us, millions of us. So I don't remember how many, 3.5, 4 million epileptics in the U.S., just the U.S., but I'm talking worldwide. And there's a big chunk of those that are resistant. So, and then you start talking about all the kids. So this is the wave of the future, the way that they will deal with that form of epilepsy in the future. And I think it would be a very simple fix to take that technology, if they dealt with NeuroPace, and put that in the dashboard, so that it would, or in the, not the dashboard, but in the brain of the car, so that it would, if we could have stopped the car, it could call 911. And I just want to look back at the pictures, think of how just horrific it would have been if anyone had been walking across that intersection, if I would have killed someone or killed their child. Or so grateful for that, and so grateful that that car did save my life. That my daughter still has a mother. She, I can't imagine. But I have a long history with Volvos. It's not just me. After my dad's accident, when he got paralyzed racing the motorcycle, he didn't want to have one of those vans that you had to ride the van up in the thing. So he had his Volvo, and he got what we used to jokingly call the chair sucker on the roof of it. And he could just take his wheelchair up to the door and slide across onto his seat. And the chair sucker kind of came over, and just a little chain dropped down with a little loop on it, and grabbed onto that seat and went up. Took the wheelchair up, folded it over, and it went in. It was just kind of like a roof rack almost. And he and his wife Kathy, they tooled all over the country in that car. They made it down to Mexico a couple times in it. My buddy Joel, he swore by those. He wouldn't allow us to drive anything but Volvos. At one point, we had about 5 of them parked out behind our house in Irvine. He taught my daughter Lexi how to fix all kinds of things on an engine, because a lot of the ones and the older ones we had were pretty simple. And so Lexi knows a lot about fixing cars. She was 15 or 16 at the time, but so yes, I have a long history with Volvo, and I think that they should feature me in one of their Volvo Saved My Life ads, because I've been through a lot, and that car did save my life, and there's a good story there. I just got a new Volvo recently, well, a used one, but I got the a 2011 CX-90, which I'm in love with. It's an awesome car. When I did get it, a couple of my friends were telling me, they were like, honey, you really can't even afford the maintenance on that car, which is pretty much true. I can barely afford the gas on that car right now. But hopefully I'll get hired and get a job soon. Or maybe Volvo will end up wanting to work with me, and that'd be nice too. So that's my message to them. They should work with me, with a semi-starving artist who's been fighting her way back from the depths of despair and some rough times. A decade and a half of seizures and rare neuro disorders, and still Miss Ultra Positive, and still thinking it's all going to be okay and turn out great. And like I said, I'm a talker, and that's why I think that certain things happen, because you put me out there and I'll talk and tell people that, especially with this thing in my head, that it's a good positive thing and can fix and help a lot of people.
Is there something that we didn't touch upon that I may have missed that you would like to add?
Well, that we want to make sure that Volvo doesn't lose me and I slip away and get really helpful, and that those other helpful people pick me up, because it's a good story. That's all. I wouldn't want those helpful people to get me.
I have no doubt. I was thinking when you were talking about how I could see. I could see you as like a general manager of some kind of a creative facility, and that you're not just working in one aspect of like just websites, but you're also still orchestrating a team of artists that are out in the field. You're in the office. Maybe you dabble. This is my psychic medium that you're doing a little bit of both. You know, you're out working hard, but then you're back dressed in a conference room doing a deal with Volvo, because now they're doing the people that drive our vehicles, or some kind of a campaign, and then an artistic edition of their vehicle that is all artistically done.
Wouldn't that be fun to do some art Volvos?
Yeah.
I'm so ADHD. I always have to have a zillion things going on at once. And it was funny, in one of the things that I read, saying some of the suggestions for people with ADHD they said that delegating is really good for you, because you're so busy going with so many ideas and so many things going on in your head, bouncing around, that if you can delegate a lot of it off, will keep you moving forward, which I think was worked real well for me when we were working in Chicago, and we had 8 employees, and I was able to continually be moving forward, designing the next job and the next bar and the next thing. I liked that, staying on top of things and moving onto new ideas and new stuff all the time.
Let's, speaking of new ideas, so why don't we create that spot right now? I'm looking for a real short, but look at me the whole time, don't look away, and tell me that afternoon, you know, let's start the story out. That afternoon was like in the afternoon, I was driving.
Was at work at a job in Huntington Beach. I was heading home. Everything was pretty normal. I remember feeling a little nauseous for just a minute, and that's about all I remember. And I think the seizure came soon after that when I plowed through the intersection, and that's all I remember. And woke up 4 days later, and they informed me what I had done. I didn't see the photographs for some time after that. But it was just traumatizing, one, knowing that I'd lost my license. I'd lost it once before and gotten it back after a year. But knowing I'd lost the license again and wasn't going to be able to drive, it was this process of all these seizures and what was going on. And then when I saw the car, my own car, that was just made my heart sink. I was just like, oh my Lord. I couldn't believe that I'd actually made it out of that alive. It was just twisted. The whole frame was twisted, and with that steering wheel was just, I mean, the headlight all the way back almost to the steering wheel was, I was stunned that I'd made it out of there with a few bruises.
Do you think, has Volvo taken any steps? I think I was listening what you were saying, the RNS integration system in their vehicles.
They have not gotten back to me on that.
I'm kind of surprised because 3 million people, that's a lot of cars.
That's
that
just in the U.S. That's just in the U.S. Now we're not even talking worldwide how many people with epilepsy. I was so amazed once too, watching a video about what's really under the hood and what makes that car safer than any other car. How many of the compression things that absorb the shocks of things sideways, front, back, and just absolutely love the fact that they invented the 3-point seatbelt and then turned it over to the world and to share with, to save. How many lives have been saved by that, by their generosity and by their
forward thinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I felt very safe driving my Volvo. I know that's maybe a little more than perhaps I should have gone. Like they said, that everybody's telling me to get a Toyota or Honda because they're going to run forever and it's easy. And I looked around and I wanted to feel safe in the Volvo. That thing saved my life. It's hard to let go of that and forget that. And, I've seen too where Volvo's been hiring a lot of people from the Volvo Save My Life Club to work at their dealerships selling cars because they're the best salespeople because they believe so fully in the product. So that's also something that I would be interested in. I never thought of selling a car before, but once again, I do believe so fully in the product. I mean, it truly did save my life. My daughter would not have a mother if it wasn't for that car. So I'm on board in any way. They need to get back to me and do something with my story because I think I've got a good and interesting story. And looking at some of the other accidents from the previous ads, mine's pretty, I would say worse than most of the ones that I've looked at in most of the ads. So I think it's something they should look at a little further.
And just do a short comment about how I think it would be the right step for them to really consider the RNS integration system in their car.
I also absolutely think that they should look further into implementing the NeuroPace RNS system into their cars, and I would love to help work with them with that, help be the guinea pig, and it could save a lot of lives. I mean, there are over 3 million people in the U.S. alone with epilepsy, and a lot of them are resistant to the medication, and this is the wave of the future of how they're going to treat epilepsy, and this could save a lot of lives. Once again, the same with the seatbelt and other things that they've done to make their cars safer than anyone else. I think they should take the step to be the first one to implement this technology and lead the way, because it could save a lot of lives and do some great things. I would love to be involved in it with them.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think, I'm just making sure, since we're still, hopefully we still have hour to go. Oh, you've been a trooper. We didn't go over, we did good. So let's run through them real quick. I think we covered them all. What would you tell others if seeking a new trade? You did that. What brought you to base? You did that. Tell me about some of the tools of the trade you've learned. You told me about that. Is there something you've always been interested in, or something that you found? You told me about that. What projects have you been working on? Let's pivot to Jim. We talked about Sandra, Jeffrey. Yep. Who's your, Jeffrey is your intake, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so that was Jeffrey. Good. We covered that. You told me about where you originally came from, but then where you in Chicago. Your goals. We talked about that. Are you seeking future? Yeah, we talked about. We covered it. I think we did a.
You say hi to my mom. Hi, Mom. Hi, Lexi. There we go. I miss them both.
Yeah, let's do that again. Say, I'd like to say hi to my mom.
I'd like to say hi to my mom and to Lexi and tell you guys I love you and I miss you both. Can't wait to see y'all soon.
Perfect. Well done.
You didn't meet my daughter Lexi when she wasn't here in town when, no, she wasn't here for Super Bowl time, no.
No.
She's a crack up. She's a piece of work. She's like a little hippie chick.
Yeah, no, you said where does she reside? Oh, let me on my.
She's up in Portland. She
Portland?
yeah.
Oh,
She has she grows.
You're on hook.